You're listening to Blockchain 2025. The future is right now. Every week, we explore implications of the technology underpinning cryptocurrencies. Blockchain.
Each episode is a standalone examination of one industry broken into 3 segments. A basic overview, blockchain's disruptive impact, and relevant crypto projects.
Blockchain 2025 is part of the Bitcoin.com podcast network. Learn about Bitcoin, create a wallet, and buy your first Satoshis all at Bitcoin.com.
This is Matt Aaron, co-host of Blockchain 2025. Billions of dollars sloshing around. Are ICOs dead? Or the current working title we've been planning for about the last 2 hours here is The State of Blockchain. I think we're going to go with that. How does that sound, Kelso?
Really good. Really good. You know, we're starting off a new season, and it'd be good to kind of take stock of where we've been, where we're at, and maybe where we're headed.
For sure, man. And dude, I want to start the season off with a recent story, I'll say in the news on Joe Rogan's podcast, the most downloaded podcast on earth. He had Elon Musk on the show. No need to introduce him. Everyone knows who he is. Man, you can just hear in his voice the sadness and despair. As an entrepreneur, he's been incredibly successful in terms of innovation for the world with Tesla and SpaceX. At the same time, financially, for someone that's contributed so much, I don't know if his wallet really shows that. And he made a misstep with the SEC, was fined. And without going into the details, right? You know, it seems like it did make a mistake here against the SEC. But as we've covered on other podcasts, the selectivity of the SEC not punishing Wall Street and certain insider traders and punishing others, you know, Elon Musk is not one of the boys there, right? And Kelso, why do I bring this up? You know, if we had a Family Feud game show, who is the most innovative entrepreneur in the world right now? I'd say Elon Musk would be number one.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kelso?
Yeah, I think he's definitely up there. And for those who, again, I'm pretty sure everybody knows, but from Tesla to SpaceX to he has a bunch of other proposals for people moving throughout California. Just a font, whether it's him or whether it's the people he attracts. He's definitely an idea man for sure.
Right. And I would guess he would be number one in terms of popularity, whether or not he's the best or what that even means. But The point is that SEC coming down on him, it means that regulation can stifle innovation. To me, this is just an example of, hey, man, if the most innovative entrepreneur in the world potentially is down and like, you know, wow, he has to take a step back and has to leave at the company he created, Tesla. Right. The reason I mentioned that is the SEC is also coming down hard on ICOs and crypto scams. And there's a lot of articles going around. The ICO is dead. ICOs are scams, et cetera, et cetera. So Kelso, in this episode, we're going to look at the numbers and explore that idea that's being sent around the media.
Yeah, and as presidents in the United States are fond of doing when they begin their State of the Union, and in this case, the state of the blockchain, I'm going to invoke the name of the emperor god of Bitcoin, Daniel Kraywitz. The state of the blockchain is good. Believe it or not, it's good, even despite all the FUD.
For sure. And I want to thank Elementis and Nuria. She's one of the co-founders there. I was on a panel with her in Barcelona a week ago talking about ICOs and security tokens being a way to securitize non-cash assets, which are 70% of the world, real estate being maybe number one there, but there's also shares of stocks, et cetera, fine art. But her company, Elementis, studies blockchain transactions for real data. And so I just want to start off, have ICOs slowed down in 2018? Well, Kelso, I got some stats from you thanks to Elementis. The total amount of ICO investment, all money raised, was somewhere between 3.5 to 4.5 billion in September 2017 at the end of last year. At the end of August this month, can you guess what it was at, Kelso?
I can't. And if I was a betting man, based on just headlines, I would say it definitely has gone down quite a bit.
Right. That's what scanning the news and the media, you may think that. And I think a lot of people think that. It's quite the opposite. So let's say 4.5 billion, we'll go with the high in September 2017. At the end of August 31st, it was at 28.4 billion. And that means around $24 billion in the last 12 months. So almost between 6 and 7 times more.
Damn.
The total raised in ICO history. So in spite of all of the ridiculous scams and ICOs that we've seen.
Wow, that's incredible. And when you factor in the crypto winter, as we called it, when the prices started to crash in late 2017, and we thought maybe it would just last into maybe the spring of this year, and crypto winter now is approaching crypto fall. You would think that at least investment, like institutional investment or VC money, would bounce, would just bail, but that's not happening. So that's really, really encouraging.
For sure. And so I want to go into the VC money investing in the infrastructure, right? Because you have the blockchain projects themselves.
Right.
Some of them help with infrastructure, but then you also have companies like Coinbase that don't do ICOs that are incredibly important to the infrastructure. Hopefully Bitcoin.com can be included there in terms of vast amount of products they have. Obviously, we're biased, but we're big believers in Bitcoin.com.
We're also, large in the space in terms of brand. And that's actually a really good point and a chance for me maybe to brag on us a little bit. When last year, towards the end of 2017, I believe we had like 30, 40 employees. We're up to now 100. So, and that's again during this bear market. So yeah, there's some there.
Yeah, great point. And the fact that we've grown in the bear market is encouraging. And, I get to talk to a lot of crypto companies in the space. This Friday, I'll be interviewing Eric Voorhees, for example. And I've noticed that a lot of, I'd say the real companies or the ones that are part of this ecosystem that are either making money or part of projects that could have big importance to the space, they understand that this bear market is necessary and it's just time to build and, fortify the company. And when that next bull run comes, they're going to have the talent and the resources and infrastructure to really contribute to this movement.
Yeah, that really shows you the maturity of this market, because if it was what a lot of the mainstream and sort of legacy finance people have declared, that it's a bubble, it's a fad or whatever, there wouldn't be money, especially in a bear market. And let's be honest, it hasn't been a bear market, that you can just say is fleeting. This is a bear market. This is a stretched out, elongated, lose all hope, cash out, go home, be done with it bear market. And yet, we're seeing more investment. As you say, people are building because the anticipation, because the tech is so strong, the anticipation is for it to come right back again.
Exactly, man. And it's emotional, it's branding, trigger words. You see this all the time in politics, and it's no different with ICOs. And Andreas Antonopoulos is so eloquent in his speeches. They always get you riled up about the future of Bitcoin. And I'd say that he has a great answer for, what about ICOs? There's so many scam or sketchy ICOs out there. And he says, listen, you have to hold two ideas at the same time in your head that are quite different from each other. So idea number one, 95%, if not more, of the ICOs out there and all this money is going to waste on ridiculous projects.
I love this quote, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Idea number two, /fact, the ICO is the most democratic invention for fundraising in world history.
I definitely agree with him on it, because it's modeled, of course, after the initial public offering. So the ICO, the initial coin offering, is that, but for our generation, for this new money, for the internet of money, no accredited investing, right? So no credit check, with some exceptions now, of course, but no KYC, AML, none of that, no minimum investments, again, plenty of exceptions. But to my way of thinking, it is, since 2014 anyway, 2015-ish, it is the greatest transfer of wealth probably in human history, at least potentially.
For sure. And that's something to be excited about. Again, there's no investment advice in this episode. It's still like finding a needle in a haystack. But for those that research and learn with time, there are going to be some amazing investments here. And the wealth transfer is real, man. I think that, the haters towards ICOs will point to the amount of failed projects. But what they're missing out on is, we started the episode with Elon Musk, right? And the SEC, quote unquote, trying to protect investors. And they say that about ICOs as well. Well, one way of protecting is saying, okay, you can't let everyone around the world invest. Instead, it's people that, when it comes to IPOs, it's to have access to the US stock market, and they have to be an accredited investor, which sounds good. Oh yeah, they have to, have some type of qualification. But the qualification is really money. An accredited investor can qualify in two main ways.
Right.
One, have a net worth in excess of $1 million, excluding the value of his or her primary residence, meaning that if they have a home that's worth $600,000, they need an additional $1 million, right? And I think usually if you have a net worth over $1 million, you probably own real estate.
Right.
I could be wrong there, but I know a lot of people will probably own real estate.
Yeah, in the United States, that's a very safe assumption. Yeah.
Or have an annual income of $200,000 annually, or $300,000 combined if you're married, for at least the past 2 years. And so think of someone that has a company,
Right.
an up and down entrepreneur. Let's say they made, $58,000 2016, and then 2017 they made $450,000. They really crushed it, and they're ready to invest. They got to wait another year if they don't have that net worth in excess of $1 million. So it limits people, right? So the accredited investor goes to the top, 2% or 1%, whatever it is, and it limits access. And a lot of times to get to that top 1%, it really helps to have access in Silicon Valley to these types of, startups, or in this case, ICOs that are there to invest in. It's the chicken and the egg.
Are you a developer? Start building on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain today. Everything you need to get started at developer.bitcoin.com.
Yeah. And, for people like us who are, free marketeers, we're often accused of maybe not being so favorable towards those of lesser means. Really, nothing could be further from the truth. And it's something that it's very difficult because with regulation, I think most people probably believe in one form or another in the SEC and their, kind of general mission. But on the other hand, it really is retarding not only innovation, because these companies are going to, take risks that maybe others wouldn't, but also wealth growth. And the ICO kind of exists in that vacuum, or has, and it's done a lot of good. Yes, there are scams, and you and I have gone after them, and we've documented them at the news desk at news.bitcoin.com. But the state of the blockchain today relative to those investments, that smart money, so that money that was accredited, this is sort of the perversity of all this. The accredited money is coming into the ICO space, even in a bear market. So, what that'll mean ultimately for the SEC, I don't know. But there's a lot of cautionary tales there. But let's maybe, transition a little bit into what's happening now. Like, what is the actual state of some of these projects? Do you have any in mind beyond the ones you've already mentioned?
Well, yeah. Ledger, right? They're probably the leading hardware wallet maker. They closed a $75 million round. So cold storage, not storing your crypto on exchanges, but on a secure USB device. $75 million raised, right?
Right.
Then let's see, Chainalysis, a blockchain analysis platform, which gets a good amount of their business from the US government, right? They want to trace the Bitcoin blockchain or an Ethereum blockchain, right? Another irony.
Another irony, yeah. Uh-huh.
They raised $16 million.
Yeah.
And those are two right there, Chainalysis and Ledger.
You picked out two perfect examples. And the reason I was sort of leading the witness there was to get to the idea that with a mature market, what you find happens, at least historically, if you're a student of these investment, you begin to develop fundamentals, and markets develop scaffolding, sort of the foundation for the rest of the economy. And so I guess if you're looking at modern finance in the United States, that would be the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the DGIA, the 30 or so top companies. It's kind of like what's a weighted average, of course, but it's sort of like for just a really crude analogy, a kind of a barometer of the entire United States economy. So in this sector, that sector, this sector, that sector, how's it going? And you can use metrics to discover that, at least a little bit, lots of flaws, but at least a little bit. Well, now we're kind of seeing that in the VC sector with regard to blockchain and ICOs. Ledger, obviously, hard wallet, some sort of custodial apparatus is going to be huge going forward. How you hold on to crypto, keeping it safe is a ginormous issue. So 75 million going into that. And I think it was a Series B round, I believe. So they're fixing to get more. And then discovering, how to use the blockchain, what it means, whether we want a privacy-based system or something a little bit more transparent, and how much of government do we want in and out of that issue. Chainalysis is right there. Again, these are becoming fundamentals, and the market is maturing. And that's another, I think, really good point to bring up in terms of the state of blockchain in 2018.
For sure. So not just the ICOs, but funding rounds for the Coinbase type companies that are providing infrastructure in and around crypto, whether that's onboarding and finance and other technologies. So in summary here, we're just at the beginning. And I would say that, is the ICO dead? I don't think so. I think we're going to see bigger and better ICOs. Hopefully, it will become more difficult and the quality of the ICOs going forward will be higher. At the same time, when we're in that next bull run, just to give you an idea, the internet boom, right, which was just the US stock market, not everyone could participate. It hit, over $3 trillion in 1999 before it crashed. We're in 2018, so we're not counting inflation for the US dollar. We got up to 840 billion in the last bull run. And crypto is so early. Adoption is, it's like at the 1% level or very low.
Yeah.
So I would guess that it's quite possible that we'll see another crypto run that takes the market cap into the trillions, Yeah. So in that next height and mania, I would expect ridiculous ICOs to continue. You've seen a lot of speeches, usually well-intended, that they say as an authority, those ICOs without a product that raise X amount of capital and just have a white paper, that's dead. I don't think so. I think we'll have another run, and it's continuing to happen as we speak.
That's interesting. Yeah, Vitalik Buterin, one of the co-founders of Ethereum, just to back up your point a little bit, he sort of threads that needle. So I definitely would not consider him a skeptic. He obviously, cuts his teeth in the space, but he was careful to actually throw some water onto what he believes is the future of growth. And he basically said it's getting to a point where there's a ceiling. So I guess most educated people have heard of blockchain at least once or whatever. And he doesn't believe there's a chance or another one that's coming for, say, a 1,000x growth in the space anymore.
Well, yeah. So, Kelso, I think that's fine. I mean, just go to the numbers there. Yeah, 1,000x, we probably won't see that again because 1,000 times, we're at 220 billion? That would be 220 trillion, right? Which would be
for Ethereum,
well over the complete assets in the world. So yeah, the percentage growth, no, but in terms of dollar amounts, it could be higher.
Right, exactly. And so that's why I kind of like his quote, because on when you first hear it, you think, oh, what a bummer. And then after a while, when you analyze it and you put it up against what you and I are discussing now, it's, optimistic in the sense that sort of the wildcatism may be mitigated against. And that's a good thing because we, as value investors, again, we're not insisting on investment advice, but you want more value investors than you want speculators or casino operators, in the sense that you want people who are in it for the long term, who are looking at fundamentals, who want to build. I think more of those people are going to get into the space. And what that means in terms of the time's growth, I don't know. I hope you're right. I suspect you're right with regard to some of the mania. But, give us some perspective. You shared with me an article that you found from 2013. And I think that puts a lot of this in some pretty cool perspective.
Sure. And so I'd like to finish off the episode, be careful, be very careful, but also be excited because we're in a technological revolution that's never been seen before in the history of Earth. I'm super, super pumped, but it's really fun to look back just 5 years ago. This is an article. The title is Bitcoin 2013, a conference to draw 1,000 people. And the Winklevi, the Winklevoss twins to San Jose this weekend. Okay, so organized by the Bitcoin Foundation and, Vinny Lingham's still on it. Roger was on that. Brock Pierce. This article talks about, hey, how can businesses accept Bitcoins? What about entrepreneurship? And what about the U.S. Department of Homeland Security seizure of Mt. Gox funds? Which is really funny because, Mt. Gox is the infamous exchange, and that's really back in the day.
But it was the end of the world, Matt. I mean, they were processing something like 70% of the Bitcoin transactions. And so that was taking a crap. So yeah, man, geez, what's going to happen? What's going to come of us,
For sure. And it's really interesting. So they say, who's going to be there? Well, Bitcoin Foundation Chief Scientist Gavin Andreessen, who will give a State of the Union overview of Bitcoin, who's now still working with Bitcoin Cash. Roger Ver, our boss, who will help business owners learn how to use Bitcoins, and Charlie Shrem, co-founder and CEO of BitInstant. Charlie Shrem, after this, he went to prison not too long after. They also talk about a medical marijuana activist and the Seasteading Institute, which is what Thiel's invested in. These are kind of these standalone cities built on top of the ocean.
Yeah, and back then, they, seasteading, and it's still considered, crazies. But back then it was considered crazy upon crazy upon crazy. So you kind of lumped it in with a bunch of commas and all the different things that were going on in the space at the time. But cut to 2018, and Joe Quirk and the Seasteading Institute and Patri Friedman, they've got a memo of understanding with French Polynesia. They're issuing their own token. So yeah, it's wonderful to hear this and look back.
For sure. And it's also funny looking back. The exhibition hall, the booths, and now you just have usually cheesy ICOs, a couple legit companies, Bitcoin.com, Decred, a few others, but companies that are not going to be there next year. And so the exhibition hall will have a booth from OpenCoin, CoinLab, and Coinbase. So I just imagine Coinbase at that time was just like a little startup. You could have talked to the CEO, Brian Armstrong of Coinbase, for an hour, right?
Brian Armstrong, yep.
And then they finish off, but one name not included on the speaker list, Satoshi Nakamoto. Will the mysterious inventor or inventors of Bitcoin be at the show? No one knows, or for that matter, would be likely to know, even if they found themselves sharing a lunch table with Nakamoto himself, or herself, or themselves. So yeah, it's a nice ending to the article, and it says how far things have come. People weren't talking about ICOs. ICO didn't exist back then, just 5 years ago.
Crazy. And there's a rumor, I'll just kind of tease it a little bit. If you want to read more about it, you can Google or just go over to news.bitcoin.com. I believe Coinbase is circling around another $500 million in investment about to be kicked down to them, 500 million large. So they have gone on since 2013 to, again, arguably onboard more people into crypto, imperfectly, admittedly, but you'd be hard pressed to find a more badass company than Coinbase. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for bringing that up and sharing that with us. The state of blockchain, the state of crypto is very strong. Don't believe the FUD. Again, none of this is investment advice, but we do believe as shills in the space that you should hang in there. And I'm super excited for not only season 4, but to kind of, observe what happens in the coming year.
For sure, man. We got some cool stuff planned for this season. So check back every week, subscribe, share, and reach out to us. Obviously go to podcast.bitcoin.com, but also email us, podcast@bitcoin.com, just to say hi, suggestions for the show, industries to cover. Yeah, we're looking forward to it, and we want to hear from you.
Very, very cool. And get over, if you're listening to us on iTunes, pause the recording and then go over and give us 5 stars. And if you don't want to give us 5 stars, then just forget I said anything.
Yeah. All right, listeners, as always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Bitcoin.com podcast network. To learn more about our shows, visit Bitcoin.com/podcast. Bitcoin.com podcast network.
Looking to own some cryptocurrency? Get free Bitcoin Cash. Just go to free.bitcoin.com.